system of the I Ching, hexagram 23, cornbow, splitting apart, stripping away. In the natural cycle, 5 yin, darkness/matter/lower forces, lines rise from below to strip away the final single yang, light/spirit, line at the top. It represents a mountain resting upon the earth, a structure decaying at its foundation. Here's the complete breakdown of hexagram 23, line by line, through the 5-4 lens and the soul fundamental meaning. The circuit of hexagram 23, bow. The judgment and image. Splitting apart. It is not advantageous to go anywhere. Mountain resting upon earth, esoteric. The lower elements, earth yin, are absorbing the elevated form, mountain yang. It is a time of non-action, spiritual endurance, and retreating inward to safeguard the core light body. Metaphysical, matter and entropy are deconstructing old structural matrix patterns. Attempting forced outward manifestation now will only splinter energy against a falling tide. Spiritual, the season requires total surrender and stillness. When temporary earthly structures break down, you must rest in source, rather than trying to fix what must fall. Afrocentric, the historical phase of physical containment or oppression, where outward resistance gives way to preserving the internal sacred seed, cultural core, and ancestral memory for the coming resurrection. Western, a declining phase in business, institution, or lifestyle. It is time to stop expanding, cut losses, consolidate resources, and avoid rash investments. Soul fundamental meaning. Honor the necessity of structural collapse. Preserve your core light by remaining still. Line 1, 6 at the beginning. The leg of the bed is split. Perseverance leads to misfortune. Esoteric. The undermining begins at the physical foundation, the root chakra, Muladhara. Base energy is becoming unstable. Metaphysical. Subtle erosion in your foundational belief systems. Denying the reality of this erosion invites psychic collapse. Spiritual. A warning that subtle compromises at the base of your faith will eventually destabilize the whole structure. Afrocentric. The early stage of institutional infiltration or internal division that weakens the community's foundation before the overt attack arrives. Western. Early warning signs of failure in a business model, relationship, or contract. Ignoring the crumbling baseline brings ruin. Soul fundamental meaning. Address foundation flaws early, and do not force stability on a structure that is already giving way. Line 2, 6 in the second place. The edge of the bed is split. Perseverance leads to misfortune. Esoteric. The rot ascends from the root into the sacral region, Svadhisthana. Emotional and relational boundaries are now being compromised. Metaphysical. The decay spreads closer to the core identity. Stubbornly clinging to old habits or toxic dynamics under the guise of holding on causes deeper harm. Spiritual. Misplaced loyalty to corrupt systems or people will pull you down into their inevitable dissolution. Afrocentric. The spreading of division into the immediate family or council circle. The erosion of trust among allies. Western. Escalation of crisis. Cracks moving from back-end support into front-facing operations. Soul fundamental meaning. Discern when holding on is no longer faith, but stubbornness that feeds destruction. Line 3, 6 in the third place. He splits with them. No blame. Esoteric. Breaking away from lower vibrational density. The individual chooses to sever ties with the rising yin forces, remaining aligned with the higher yang path. Metaphysical. Conscious detachment from negative collective, subconscious patterns. You align with light, even while surrounded by density. Spiritual. Holy separation. Stepping out from among corrupt influences to guard your spiritual purity, regardless of peer pressure. Afrocentric. The courageous act of the outlier maroon or reformer who refuses to compromise with oppressors or sellouts, walking the isolated path of truth. Western. Whistleblowing, resigning from a toxic corporate culture, or ending an abusive partnership despite social pushback. Soul fundamental meaning. Breaking away from what degrades you is essential for spiritual self-preservation. Line 4, 6 in the fourth place. The bed is split up to the skin. Misfortune. Esoteric. The decay touches the heart chakra, anahata, and physical body. The spiritual shelter has completely collapsed. You are directly exposed to the elements. Metaphysical. Total breakdown of external buffers. Reality strips away illusion, down to the raw nerve of existence. Spiritual. The dark night of the soul where no earthly comfort remains, forcing complete reliance on the unmanifest creator. Afrocentric. Total physical displacement, captivity, or systemic dispossession, where all external protections are stripped away by force. Western. Personal crisis, loss of job, home, status, or health. The absolute rock-bottom moment of structural loss. Soul fundamental meaning. When external shields are stripped away, The bare soul is forced to stand entirely on its inner reality. Line 5, 6 in the 5th place. A shoal of fishes. Favor comes through the court, ladies. Everything acts to advantage. Esoteric. Transmutation of lower forces. The yin lines are organized like a school of fish, submitting order to the supreme spiritual authority at the top. Metaphysical. The chaotic elements of your reality are brought into orderly alignment through submissive integration with the higher purpose. Spiritual. Grace enters the collapse. What was chaotic and destructive becomes organized, serving the restoration of the righteous. Afrocentric. Tribal unity reconstituted, bringing the scattered community into structured alignment behind ancestral order and wise leadership. Western. Strategic reallocation of remaining assets. Diplomatic leadership organizing a chaotic team to survive a crisis smoothly. Soul fundamental meaning. Order and harmony return when chaotic lower desires yield to higher spiritual order. Line 6, 9 at the top. A large fruit remains uneaten. The noble person receives a carriage. The inferior person's house is demolished. Esoteric. The seed of the previous cycle, yang, remains intact. The old outer shell decays to nourish the sacred seed of the new aeon. Metaphysical. The ultimate law of conservation. Truth cannot be destroyed. The spiritual person is elevated by the experience, receives a carriage, while the ego structure, inferior person's house, is dismantled. Spiritual. Resurrection and vindication. Evil destroys itself through its own decay, but the righteous person carries the seed of divine life into the next creation cycle. Hexagram 24. Return.